I'm going to take a look at some of the options for smaller bags on the bikes, and that's prompted because my top bar bags that go just behind the handlebars on that top frame element, the zip on the main one I use has broken, so it doesn't really close properly anymore. And I thought I might as well use the experience I've had now of about 8,000 to 10,000 kilometers of touring to get something that actually suits my purposes a little bit better than I eventually discovered this one did. So this, in turn, which is one of the Rockbros, was an inheritance to this, which was one I think I just bought the TK Maxx, to be honest, on the way to the counter. This one is obviously quite small, so I got a bigger one, and initially one of the reasons for getting it was this phone display part of it. So the idea is that you can look down and you can see your phone. So if you're using it for navigation, it's easy to see it. In practice, I found that didn't really work. The sun would catch it, so you couldn't see it. The touchscreen didn't really function through the plastic. If it rained, the plastic got wet, and then it didn't even function anymore. So as it turned out, that particular element wasn't that useful, and I actually ended up cutting out the phone holder on the inside, and instead what I use this for on the road is stuff that I need to be able to quickly access without getting off the bike. And in fact, in particular, in a catch-22 situation, perhaps, that turned out to often be the camera gear I use for recording when I'm cycling. So my GoPro components would go in here, including the battery changes, because it meant when a battery went flat, just flip this open, take the battery out, change it all around. Mostly it worked fine. There were two problems I found. One is they're both secured using Velcro straps, but that top bar is relatively slippy as a surface. So the Velcro straps around the top bar and then this around the handlebar stem, but it would often shift weight if you hadn't been very careful about putting it on, and you discovered it kind of tilted over a fair bit. That was a minor annoyance. And then the second related thing, is that that's quite a bit of work to actually attach. So if I was doing hotel stay nights in a town where I didn't want to leave the bags on the bike, actually taking them all off and putting them all on the next day is a bit of a pain. So those were two things I was looking to address. And of course, the third thing, as always, was can I get something that actually fits a bit more? They were my three components, and what I settled on is this K33 by Rhinowalk. So Rockbros and Rhinowalk are two of the companies that, if you're looking online, particularly say on Amazon, you'll see a lot of bike bags in particular. I've used both of the stuff before. As I've said in my other recent review on my new Ortlieb pannier, they're not really comparable to, say, Ortlieb, which have a much better manufacturing quality, basically, but they're far, far cheaper. So you'll often pick up an item that structurally looks very similar, perhaps has even been copied to some extent, perhaps not. Parallel evolution, after all. That structurally looks very similar, but it will literally be a third of the price. And particularly when you're starting off, that's kind of important because you don't want to be spending a vast amount of money on your first time out. The other thing, yes, this year I'm fortunate in that I've no big expenses. Most years I've had like buying a battery for say €700 to add to it, buying the Nion control unit last year, which added I think was about 500, 550 including installation. I have those sort of expenses. I've nothing like that this year, so I have a little bit more money now that we've reached shopping season, and my joke is January and February always seems to be when I'm making purchases, to actually go out and buy some gear. So let's have a look at what we have in here. We can immediately see it's a similar size to this older Rockbro one. It's actually a little bit narrower. That will possibly not matter that much because I have a very specific use for it, which is keeping my GoPro camera gear, my spare batteries and things in it. And It's got a single opening mechanism rather than a zip on the side, and basically that works by you pull it up and then it pops up neatly. There's still a good amount of space left in there, so it's perfect for that kind of fiddly recording gear, and also I can put in the audio recording gear I'm currently working with, and that makes my life much easier on the bike because I can swap all that sort of stuff over faster, and that means I will shoot more footage because it's less hassle to actually do. So in terms of how it attaches to the bike, there is a Velcro style fastener that will go into the handlebars, and I'll put this on there in a minute, and then underneath we have this single attachment point. Now I have to make a confession here. I thought when I was buying it this was going to be magnetic, and so the attachment point would stay on the bike and then I could just pop this on and off. I've just gone back and reread the material for it, and actually this is the magnetic part. So what this is, it's mechanical, and it's quite an interesting setup in that there is basically a piece of wire running through here, and that's what goes around the top bar, and you turn the knob one way and it loosens the wire, and the other way and it tightens it. So once it's loose like this, you can see I can then pull this out of the catch and wrap that around the handlebar, and then once I've wrapped it around, I turn the wheel and that tightens it back onto our catch here. And so that should give me a very tight hold, which I'm basically hoping that the tight hold will mean I don't suffer the problem of it slipping sideways. We'll have to experiment with that when we do it. Yeah, part of the issue is when you've got things like camera gear in here, which is quite heavy, batteries are heavy, and they shift around as you're going around corners. It was dragging this style of one, which is just Velcro, over with it and would start to tilt over. And particularly when your zip soles are gone, that's not good because then it might fall out. So first look, it looks pretty good. Material feels good, feels like it should be waterproof. This had a real problem with condensation. We'll see if I suffer from the same problem with that. Somewhat disappointed it doesn't come off the bike quite as easily as I imagined it might, but actually this particular mechanism, two things strike me about it. One is it's probably quicker to take off anyway than the Velcro only system, but the second thing is it's also a little obscure in that, and it took me a while to work out how to do it, and that would be even harder to do if it was actually on the bike. So it's probably also the case that it's something that I could leave on and that people might not be able to instantly work out how to use it. The same applies actually for the unlocking mechanism here. It took me a while to realise you pulled up the red thing in order to get it to pop up. I was kind of pushing around here. You can make that more obscure, but even cutting the little red label off. But anyway, that's all post-purchase rationalizations. Let's have a look at what it looks like when we go to mount this onto the bike. Okay, so when it comes to attaching it to the bike, there's two components are holding it on. One is this part going underneath the top bar, and then the second one is this part which wraps around the handlebar stem and then velcros to itself on the other side. So let's attach that one first. It's very straightforward. You're just slotting it through, pulling it taut, and then wrapping it around. And actually, even on its own, is giving you a fairly good connection. And the second one is this wire. So with that, you loosen it, which enables you to unwind the wire. You bring this around and you attach it to there's a hook on the other side. You'll have seen it in the other video. And then you simply turn this to make it tight. And there we have what looks like a very solid connection. Although experience will tell, there's a little bit of give. We pull that open, so the whole idea of this is it's very easy to open and close it one-handed on the bike. That would probably be useful, I guess, if you wanted to carry, I don't know, electrolytes or very small amount of water in it. But it's of some use with my camera gear. I'm actually realising that there's a thing I wanted to do more, which is being able to take out a camera and film myself for a second as I cycle along and then put it away again. And actually this could help me do that. So if you start to see footage of that happening next year, you'll know it's because that helped me do that. And then same thing again, closing it. So yes, definitely opens and closes. Very solid looking. You know, it's certainly a lot neater than my old one. So I think I am pretty happy with that. Let's just put a couple of things in to try it out. So my GoPro battery case with my spare batteries in it. The camera itself. And there's still a fair bit of room in there for recording gear and similar stuff. Now, curiously, when I opened it, I noticed there's an additional Velcro strap here. This is actually quite a generous big one, and I'm not terribly sure what it's for. So, you get a bonus Velcro strap. I guess maybe it's if you had a particularly weird handlebar configuration or something. There's no additional securing points I can see anywhere on it, so yes, a little bit uncertain what those are for. But anyway, certainly the setup looks good, and the next thing to do is to do a bit of road testing for it. So it's going to be going to work with me, and I'll bring it to the park and I'll shoot some video and just find out how good this bag is. But at least initially, thumbs up, this is looking pretty good. I'll give you an update in a few months once I've got a big experience of riding this. I'm going to be off to the Pyrenees in June this year doing a 2,000 kilometre cycle, so do give me a follow on eBike Touring Life on Instagram if you want to see my photos from the roadside as I'm doing that. And next autumn I'll be uploading the videos here to the YouTube channel on it, so yeah, give them a follow. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. That helps me get it out to more people and build the channel. And as I'm always telling you, check the video description and also the comments. In the description I'll add additional information, but on the comments you'll get other people posting what their experiences are with this particular frame bag and with other frame bags, and often having better ideas than I have. A lot of the commentary underneath my videos is very useful indeed. Anyway, hopefully someday I shall meet you on the road.